The night sky above the ruined battlefield was painted with smoke, drifting slowly like tired ghosts. The air smelled of burnt metal and broken dreams. Human Soldier Cross walked carefully through the ruins, his boots crunching over shattered stone and glowing alien glass. He had lost his team during the last attack, but he wasn't panicking. His heart felt strangely calm, as if something invisible was guiding him forward. In the silence, he heard a faint sound. It wasn't the echo of war machines or the hum of alien drones. It was soft, almost like a whimper, a sound too fragile to belong to a creature known for power. Lifted his flashlight and followed the noise. The beam of light cut through the smoke, and then he saw her. The alien queen of the most feared being on the battlefield lay trapped beneath a fallen pillar. Her silver-blue skin shimmered faintly under the dust, and her long crown-like ridges were cracked. Purple blood pooled around her sides, still warm. Her glowing violet eyes were half open, filled with pain, and something never expected from a queen bred for war. Fear. The entire human army had been told she was a monster, a merciless commander, a weapon wearing a living body, but lying there wounded and trembling, she looked nothing like the legends. She looked young, lost, alone. Approached slowly. His steps echoed, and the queen's eyes flickered toward him. She tried to lift her hand, but it trembled weakly and fell back against the stone. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The battlefield felt frozen in time. Then she whispered, "Help." The word was so soft that almost thought he imagined it, but her lips had moved. Her voice had cracked. This proud ruler, this feared warrior, was begging a human soldier for help. His chest tightened. He had expected danger, rage, violence, but not this. Without thinking, he knelt beside her. His training screamed for him to stay back, to call for backup, to finish the mission, but wasn't looking at an enemy anymore. He was looking at someone bleeding, someone scared, someone who had never been given kindness in her life. Her eyes widened as he moved closer. "You are not afraid," she whispered. Shook his head gently. "You're hurt. Anyone would be scared like that." The queen's lips trembled slightly, as if no one had ever spoken to her with softness before. She tried to hide the pain, but a quiet, shaky breath escaped her. Touched the stone pinning her leg. The moment his hand brushed against the broken rubble, she flinched, more in surprise than fear. "No human has ever dared come this near," she murmured. Looked up at her. Maybe they should have. He tested the weight of the pillar. It was heavy, but with enough leverage he could move it. Still, he needed to check her first. His hand slowly reached toward the wound at her side. When his fingers gently touched the edge of her damaged skin, she gasped sharply. Her body tensed, but she didn't pull away. Her violet eyes locked onto his, full of confusion and something deeper, something fragile. His voice softened. "I'm not here to hurt you, I just want to help." The queen swallowed hard. Her species didn't cry, not physically, but something in her expression felt close to it. She nodded weakly. Pressed slightly around the wound, trying to see how deep it was. Her breath shook at his touch. She whispered again, voice cracking even more. "Gentle, please." He nodded and moved slower. The moment he did, she exhaled, her body relaxing for the first time since he arrived. It was like she was realizing, truly realizing, that he wasn't her enemy here. He was her lifeline. As worked, he noticed the way her fingers curled slightly, like she was fighting the urge to reach out to him. She didn't understand the warmth he offered. Queens were born into cold halls and colder wars. No one touched them except for battle or orders, never with care. Found himself speaking softly, almost whispering, "You're not alone, I've got you." Her eyes fluttered, and something inside her broke, something made of steel and silence. In that ruined battlefield, surrounded by death and smoke, she felt something she had never felt before. "Safety." And as prepared to free her from the rubble, the queen whispered, a trembling voice filled with fear, hope, and desperate trust. "Human, do not leave me." Took her hand gently. "I won't." Took a slow breath as he studied the broken pillar trapping the alien queen's leg. She was hurt badly, and every moment she stayed here increased the danger for both of them. The battlefield was calm now, but he knew it wouldn't stay that way for long. He wiped some dust off his gloves and whispered, "I'm going to lift it. It might hurt for a moment." The queen nodded faintly. Her violet eyes watched his every move, but there was no anger or command in them, only trust. A fragile trust, like a small light in endless darkness. Placed his hands under the edge of the stone. He pushed, slowly, carefully. The queen gasped as the pressure shifted, her claws scraping softly against the ground. She bit her lip to stop a cry from escaping, but a warm, tear-like glow formed at the corner of her eye. "Almost I've got it," said through gritted teeth. With one final heave, he rolled the stone aside. The queen collapsed forward slightly, her wounded leg giving out, rushed to catch her, and her body fell gently into his arms. She stiffened at first. Royalty never allowed themselves to be touched, but as she felt his steady grip, she relaxed. Her forehead rested lightly against his chest. "You are warm," she whispered, sounding surprised. "And you're lighter than I expected," said softly, trying to make her smile. She didn't smile, but her breathing calmed just a little. Slowly lowered her onto a clearer patch of ground. Her wound was still bleeding, the dark purple liquid dripping steadily. He pulled out a small medical kit from his belt. It wasn't meant for alien bodies, but it was all he had. "I need to check your side again," he said gently. The queen didn't speak. She simply nodded and closed her eyes, reached toward the wound, moving slowly so she could see every motion. His fingers brushed the edge of the injury, and the queen inhaled sharply, her entire body tense. "Froze, did I hurt you?" Her eyes opened slightly. They were glassy, almost shimmering. "No, it is not pain." He didn't understand. "Then what is it?" The queen hesitated, her throat tight with emotions she didn't know how to name. "No one has ever touched me softly." Her voice shook as she spoke. "I do not know how to respond to it." His heart twisted. A queen powerful, feared, had lived her entire life without tenderness. He placed his hand gently against her wound again, slower this time. She gasped, but instead of fear, a strange warmth passed through her. Her claws curled into the dirt, not from hurt, but from something she didn't understand, comfort. Cleaned the wound with the last of his purified water, pouring it softly over her side. The queen shivered, leaning slightly toward his touch as if her body instinctively sought the warmth of another living being. When his fingers brushed the injured skin again, the queen suddenly reached out and grabbed his wrist. It wasn't rough or threatening. Her grip was gentle, almost pleading. Her voice trembled. "Do it again." Froze, the battlefield around them vanished from his mind. For a moment there was only her, the wounded ruler, the trembling voice, the violet eyes begging for something she had never been given. He slowly touched her wound again, more carefully, more gently. This time she didn't gasp from shock. She exhaled, a soft, shaky breath that sounded almost like relief. Her shoulders relaxed. Her lips parted slightly as if the feeling overwhelmed her. Whispered, "You're okay, I'm right here." The queen lowered her head, her crown ridges casting shadows across her face. "Why are you doing this?" she asked, her voice barely audible. "Why help your enemy?" "I don't see an enemy," said softly. "I see someone who needs help." Her breath caught. She looked away quickly, ashamed of the emotions she couldn't hide. "I do not deserve such kindness." Shook his head. "Everyone deserves kindness." The queen trembled again, not from pain, but from hearing a sentence she had never believed possible. She felt her heart pounding in ways she didn't understand. Queens were raised to be stone, unyielding, cold, unbreakable. But's touch melted something inside her that had never been allowed to soften. "Human," she whispered with effort, "you are strange." Chuckled softly, "I get that a lot." The queen's eyes softened, the fear inside them slowly fading. She leaned her head slightly against his shoulder, letting her weight rest on him. Not because she was weak, but because, for the first time in her life, she trusted someone else to carry part of her pain. As continued cleaning the wound, he didn't realize how much that simple act meant to her. But she did. She felt every gentle touch, like a new world opening inside her chest. And as the night grew quieter, the queen's voice broke once more. soft, trembling, full of fragile hope. "Please do not leave me," placed his hand over hers. "I won't." The wind shifted over the ruined battlefield, carrying the distant hum of engines. Froze. It wasn't the soft crackle of fires anymore or the quiet settling of broken metal. This sound was sharper, stronger, familiar. Human military engines. They were coming. The Queen opened her eyes slightly, sensing the change in his heartbeat. Could feel emotions like small vibrations in the air, and right now, his pulse carried tension. "What is it?" she whispered, her voice still weak but alert. Looked toward the hazy horizon. Blue lights flickered in the distance, human drones scanning the area. They were getting closer every second. "My people," said quietly, "they're searching for survivors." The Queen stiffened. "Your people will execute me on sight." Didn't answer. He didn't need to. She already knew the truth. A queen who commanded enemy fleets, a leader responsible for battles that shook continents. If humans found her here, wounded and helpless, they wouldn't hesitate. She swallowed, her voice softer. "You must leave, human." Blinked. "What? No." "You must," she insisted, her tone gaining strength. "If they see you with me, they will not spare you." Scoffed gently. "Then we hide together." The Queen stared at him, confused. No one had ever spoken to her like that, not even her own soldiers. Her entire life had been orders, control, discipline. But this human spoke with stubborn warmth, not fear. "You would risk death," she murmured, "for me." Nodded slowly, "Yes." Something flickered in her chest, an emotion she couldn't name. It felt like a small flame, glowing painfully and beautifully at the same time. She tried to sit up, but her leg trembled violently. Immediately supported her, slipping one arm around her back. The Queen's breath shook as his warmth pressed against her. She did not pull away. "Easy," he said softly. "Lean on me." She did, without a single argument. Carefully lifted her, placing her arm around his shoulder. Her claws brushed against his armor, leaving faint marks, not from force, but from her need to hold on. As they moved deeper into the ruins, the sound of engines grew louder. Voices crackled through radios. Searchlights sliced through the smoke. The Queen turned her head slightly, her voice trembling. "Human, I do not wish to be your doom." "You're not," whispered. "You're the reason I'm still moving." She felt her heart throb painfully at his words. Hearts beat differently, slower, colder. But for the first time, hers sped up, warm and restless. They hid behind a fallen metal tower, carefully lowered her to the ground. She winced as her leg buckled, and he immediately placed a steady hand on her back. "My people are trained to kill anything alien," he said, "especially a queen." The Queen looked at him with trembling eyes. "And your life, you would throw it away." Met her gaze, his voice soft but firm. "My life is mine to choose, and I choose to protect you." Her lips parted slightly. She did not know how to reply. No one had ever chosen her, not as a person. Only as a weapon, a ruler, a symbol. But this human, he was choosing her heart. The engines grew louder. Human voices echoed across the metal ruins. "They are close," the Queen whispered. Leaned closer. "Then we stay quiet, stay with me." She nodded and slowly reached out. Her hand trembled as she touched his wrist, holding it with a gentle, uncertain grip. It was a small gesture, but for someone who had never been allowed softness, it felt as big as a vow. A drone passed above them, its blue light scanning the area. Instinctively pulled the Queen closer, shielding her with his own body. Her breath caught in her throat as she felt his heartbeat so close to her skin. She whispered, her voice almost breaking. He looked at her. "No one has ever protected me," she admitted. "Not like this." Brushed a strand of dust from her cheek. "Then they didn't deserve you." Her chest tightened painfully. Something inside her cracked, something old and lonely. For a moment, she allowed her head to rest against his shoulder, closing her eyes as she listened to the one thing that made her feel alive: his heartbeat. The hunter's footsteps echoed nearby. The danger was real, the fear was real. But for the first time, she did not face it alone. The Queen whispered almost to herself, Human, you are a strange spark in the darkness. Smiled softly. Good sparks are meant to guide. She squeezed his wrist gently, her voice trembling with hope and fear. Then guide me. And in that ruined battlefield, hiding from both fate and war, a human soldier and an alien queen found something neither world had taught them to believe in. Trust. The ruins stretched endlessly around them, broken metal and shattered stone reflecting the faint glow of distant fires. Moved carefully, supporting the queen as her wounded leg dragged slightly. Each step made her wince, but she didn't complain. Her trust in him was absolute now, and that trust weighed more heavily on her than her pain. "You're heavier than I thought," joked, trying to lighten the moment. The queen blinked, confused. "Is that an insult?" "No," he said with a small grin. "It's a compliment. You're strong, even injured." She tilted her head, her violet eyes narrowing slightly. "Your humor is strange." "You'll get used to it," whispered. For a moment the queen just stared at him. She had led armies, commanded legions, and faced enemies across galaxies, yet she had never met anyone like him. He didn't fear her. He didn't hate her. He only cared, and that simple care, small and human, shook her to her core. The sound of engines grew louder again, closer this time. Pulse quickened. The human hunters were not far behind, their drones scanning every inch of the rubble. Crouched behind a broken wall, the queen leaning weakly against him. "They will find us," she whispered, her voice trembling. "They will kill us both." "We'll stop them," said softly, though the doubt in his own chest was hard to ignore. He tightened his hold on her arm. "We have to move before they see us." The queen hesitated. "I do not wish to be a burden." "You're not a burden," said firmly. "You're alive, and I won't leave you." Her chest rose and fell rapidly, her breath uneven. We're not used to being cared for, and this feeling of someone's hand holding her as if she mattered, as if her life had value beyond power, was overwhelming. She had spent centuries being feared, respected, obeyed, but never truly loved, never truly protected, until now. Lifted her carefully, her arm around his shoulder, and began moving through the twisted metal corridors. Her skin brushed against his armor, leaving faint streaks of silver dust. She noticed the warmth radiating from him, something no alien had ever shown her. It calmed her, soothed the constant tension that had defined her life. As they ran, she whispered almost to herself, "I never imagined this." "What?" asked, glancing at her briefly. "This kindness," she said. "Even now in war and pain, someone is gentle with me." His chest tightened. "You deserve it," he said softly, "more than you know." They ducked behind a large piece of fallen machinery. A drone passed overhead, blue light scanning, then moved on. The queen exhaled, relief flooding her face. She had spent her life calculating every move, every possibility. But with him, she didn't have to calculate. She could just exist, vulnerable and human-like in ways her species never allowed. Her hand trembled as she touched his chest lightly, seeking balance, seeking reassurance. "Human, why do you care so much?" she whispered. "Because I see you," he said simply. "Not the queen, not the enemy, not a weapon. I see you, and you deserve to live." She looked up at him, her violet eyes glistening in the firelight. For the first time, she felt fragile and strong at the same time. Fragile because she had never allowed herself to need anyone. Strong because someone had chosen to stay, chosen to protect her, chosen to trust her in return. They moved quickly through the ruins, each step a mix of careful calculation and instinct. His hand brushed the wound at her side gently whenever she stumbled, as if reminding her silently that she was not alone. Each touch sent shivers through her, not of pain, but of something foreign and beautiful, comfort, hope, and trust. The queen's voice broke the silence softly. "Human, I never thought I would feel safe again." "You are," said, giving her a small smile despite the danger. "Right now you are." Her chest rose and fell faster, emotions she couldn't name swirling inside her. Trust, hope, fear, relief, all tangled together. She leaned slightly closer to him, not because she was weak, but because she wanted to feel the warmth of life beside her, something her throne and her armies had never given her. Glanced at her face and whispered, "Stay with me, don't look back." She nodded, feeling a strange, quiet courage bloom inside her. For the first time in centuries, she wasn't running alone. She had someone to share the fear with, someone to share hope with, someone to carry her when she could not carry herself. And in that moment, between the twisted metal and the encroaching hunters, the queen realized that this human soldier, this small, fragile being, was more than her protector. He was her anchor. And she had never known she needed one until now. The ruins were alive with danger now. Flashlights cut through the smoke in harsh, jagged lines, and the pounding of boots echoed like thunder across broken stone. Crouched behind a collapsed metal wall, holding the queen close. Her wounded side pressed against his chest, and she flinched with every echo of movement. "They are close," she whispered, voice trembling. "They will see us." Pressed a hand gently to her back. "Stay calm, we just need to be smart and move slowly." Her violet eyes met his, wide with fear and exhaustion. She had fought thousands of battles, commanded fleets, and faced death countless times, but never like this. Never had she been vulnerable in front of someone she trusted, someone who wasn't afraid of her. "They will not spare either of us if they find us," she said softly. Shook his head. "Then we don't let them find us." He glanced at her wound, the dark purple blood seeping slowly through his bandage attempts. "And we keep moving. I won't let them hurt you." The queen swallowed, her lips trembling. "Why do you risk your life for me?" "Because it's right," said firmly. "And because no one else is here, I'm your shield." Her chest tightened, weren't trained to feel gratitude. They weren't taught to feel tenderness. But right now, every nerve in her body buzzed with a strange warmth. Someone had chosen her life over their own safety, and for the first time she felt a glimmer of something she could barely name. The distant voices grew louder, closer, more insistent. Carefully lifted her, draping her arm over his shoulder. She leaned heavily against him, her head brushing his armor. Her breathing was shallow, irregular, but she made no sound of complaint. "You trust me?" he asked softly. She hesitated for a moment, then nodded. "I do, perhaps more than I should." Gave a faint smile. "Then let's keep it that way." As they crept between fallen towers and jagged walls, a drone hovered overhead, its scanning light painting the queen in pale blue. Her body stiffened at the glow, instinctively preparing to strike, but held her steady. "Relax," he whispered. "It's just light, not them yet." Her claws grazed his chest, a faint reminder of her strength even in weakness. She shivered under his warmth, realizing that every gentle touch, every moment of care, was something she had never known in her life. Suddenly, a human voice called out sharply from the distance. "Cross, step into the open, she's dangerous." The queen stiffened, panic rising. "Leave me," she whispered. "Go, your life, you must survive, they will not hesitate." Stopped, his eyes locking onto hers. "No," he said firmly. "I'm staying, I won't leave you." Her breath caught. She had been alone her entire life, trained to command, to fight, to fear. No one had ever chosen her over themselves. Yet here he was, a fragile human soldier, willing to face certain death for her. Tears, though did not cry as humans did, brimmed in her violet eyes. She felt the ache of loneliness, the sting of betrayal by her own kind, and now, the impossible hope that she could survive this night because of someone else. "You," she began, her voice breaking. "You are strange." Shrugged lightly. "Maybe, but I think everyone needs to be a little strange sometimes." She blinked, unsure if she should laugh or collapse. But she stayed quiet, leaning slightly against him, letting him carry the weight of both her body and her heart. Tightened his hold, pressing a gentle hand against her side. "Almost there," he whispered. "Just a little further." The queen's claws pressed softly into his armor, not in threat, but in silent trust. The sound of boots grew louder behind them, hunters closing in. She whispered again, her voice trembling with emotion. "Human, why do you care so much? I am your enemy, your world's enemy." "You are a being," said simply. "Not just a label, and right now what matters is that you live." Her chest rose and fell rapidly. For centuries, she had known only fear, command, and obedience. But for the first time, she felt safety, hope, and warmth, emotions she never thought could exist. "Then stay with me," she whispered softly. Smiled, brushing a faint streak of blood from her cheek. "Always." The human hunters were almost upon them now, their searchlights carving paths through the ruins. But the queen moved as one, fragile yet unbreakable, a soldier and a queen bound by trust, hope, and the quiet strength of one simple promise: I won't leave you. And in the darkness of the battlefield, with danger closing in from all sides, the queen realized that for the first time in her long, lonely life, she was not alone. The roar of engines grew deafening, and the sharp lights of search drones cut through the smoke like knives. Crouched behind a collapsed wall, the queen pressed against him. Her violet eyes were wide with fear, but also something else: determination. She had survived centuries of war, commanded fleets, and faced enemies who would kill without thought. But this moment was different. This moment she realized she would not face alone. "They're very close," she whispered, voice trembling but steady. "You must leave. They will kill you for staying with me." "No," said firmly. "I'm not leaving you, not now, not ever." The queen blinked, stunned. Her body tensed. We're taught to command, to dominate, and to survive alone. No one had ever chosen her over their own life. No one had ever death for her sake. And now this human soldier, fragile and mortal, stood resolute. "Human, you are foolish," she whispered. "I'm not foolish," he said softly, brushing a loose strand of dust from her face. "I care, and that's enough." A distant voice cracked through the ruins. "Cross, step into the open. She's a queen, she's dangerous." The queen flinched, expecting the command to strike him down, but didn't move. He only shifted slightly, pulling her closer. "You see," she said, voice breaking, "they will not hesitate." "Then let's show them a reason to pause," said quietly. He stepped out into the open, the queen leaning heavily against him. Hunters froze at the sight. A human soldier standing unarmed before the most feared being in the galaxy, protecting her instead of attacking. The queen's chest rose and fell rapidly, her claws pressed gently against his armor, seeking reassurance. "Step back, Cross," the commander shouted, rifle raised. "She is too dangerous." His voice was calm but firm. "She is hurt, she does not want to fight, and I will not let you harm her." The queen's violet eyes widened. She had led armies that obeyed without question, had weapons that could destroy planets, but never had she heard words like these. They were soft, human, alive, and they belonged to him. The commander's finger tightened on the trigger, but he hesitated, uncertain. A soldier protecting the enemy? The audacity was impossible to ignore. The queen lifted her head, her breathing labored but her voice strong. "I am not your enemy," she said, though it trembled slightly. "This human has shown me kindness, a thing I have never known. If you harm me, you must harm him as well, for he carries my trust." The hunters froze. For a moment, the battlefield was silent except for the distant hum of engines and the queen's uneven breaths. Felt her tremble against him. Her species never allowed vulnerability, never showed emotion, never trusted without calculation. But now, here she was, leaning on him, her life in his hands and her trust unbroken. He placed a hand gently over hers, brushing against the wound he had tended hours ago. "I'm here," he whispered. "I won't leave." The commander lowered his weapon slowly, disbelief and confusion in his eyes. "Cross, what are you doing?" "I'm saving a life," said simply. "That's all I'm doing." The queen's gaze softened. She had expected fear, hesitation, or violence. She had not expected loyalty, not like this, not from a human. She realized something profound. Power alone was meaningless without trust, without connection, without someone willing to fight for you even when it made no sense. "I thank you," she whispered softly. "Human, you are unlike any other." Smiled faintly, brushing a streak of dust from her cheek. "Good, because you deserve to live." Her chest rose and fell, her violet eyes glistening with tears she could not name. Did not cry like humans, but something in her heart loosened. Something old and cold melted, replaced by warmth she had never allowed herself to feel. The battlefield remained tense, hunters frozen, engines humming, smoke curling into the sky. And in that fragile, suspended moment, a human and an alien queen, enemies by nature of their worlds, stood together. Neither backing down, both defying death and expectation. The queen whispered once more, her voice trembling with gratitude, fear, and something she could not name. "Do it again." Looked down at her, understanding. Not the wound, not the battle. The touch, the trust, the comfort. He pressed his hand gently to her side, steadying her, sharing warmth, showing her that she was not alone. And for the first time in her long, lonely life, she believed it. She was not alone.